Now, during the times of the snooker season when there's no live tournaments to review or to preview, I'm often searching for topics or ideas to make opinion-based videos on. But fortunately, Jack Lisowski winning the Northern Ireland Open presented this idea on a silver platter for me, and that is to ask the question, who is now the best player to never win a ranking title? Jack Lisowski, of course, held on to that mantle for a long old time, along with Ryan Day, who broke his own duck a few years ago. So in this video, I've listed 6 players not to win a ranking title yet, who perhaps really rather should have done by now. But before I even get into those 6 players, I do have a couple of honourable mentions to talk about. Now, both of these men are technically ranking event winners, but I use that term very loosely considering the events that they have won. Dave Gilbert was talked about in the exact same light as Jack Lisowski before he claims his first piece of silverware at the 2021 Championship League, and that was the ranking version of the event, not its non-ranking counterpart, which means he can no longer be talked about in this debate. But I do think it would be a crying shame if the one tournament he ever won was of this smaller magnitude, and I would really love to see him go on to win something I would consider to be a proper title, though I'm sure that result was every bit as special to Dave when he finally won it. Another fan favourite is Michael Holt, who is also a ranking event winner by virtue of his win at the Snooker Shootout 5 years ago. Michael has also won a couple of minor ranking titles back in the early 2010s when the PTC events were a thing. Again though, I would really love to see Michael win something bigger. But now let's talk about players who have definitely not won a ranking event before, and we'll start with Si Jiewei, who at number 16 in the world is currently the highest ranked player yet to win a title. Si, of course, properly announced himself to the world when he reached the semi-finals at the Crucible as a qualifier 2 years ago, only to let a huge advantage slip against the eventual champion Luca Bressel. But he has proved that his performance then was no fluke. Since that semi-final, he has gone on to reach 2 finals at the 2024 German Masters and the Wuhan Open that same year. He also has one more ranking event semi-final to his name, in addition to a host of quarter-final runs as well. Si is supremely talented in the sport, and like many of his young compatriots, seems to be able to pot anything that is round and can score heavily off the chances that he creates for himself. He is, however, very rough around the edges, although the same could probably be said about the reigning world champion Sao Sing Tong, so that argument doesn't hold as much weight as it perhaps used to. He has knocked on the door for the past couple of years, but is he ready to win a title yet? Zhao Yulong is another Chinese player to have gone close to winning a ranking title without quite getting over the line yet, and I suspect he might be at the top of quite a few people's lists when this question is brought up. Zhao has already reached a final this season at the English Open, and he did almost pull off a brilliant comeback to beat Mark Allen before being denied in the deciding frame there. Unfortunately for Zhao, he also has 3 further runner-up medals to his name at the 2022 Northern Ireland Open, the 2020 Shootout, and the 2019 European Masters, where he was whitewashed 9-0 in his maiden ranking event final. Zhao has also reached a semi-final this season, which was at the Northern Ireland Open last week, and he has got to the last 4 of the UK Championship before as well. Now, Zhao does have silverware to his name when both he and Yang Bintel won the Snooker World Cup as teenagers 10 years ago in 2015. And I think many expected him to have had the career that Yan was starting to achieve. Of course, that was until the match fixing controversy that Yan found himself involved with. Still though, Zhao is a very accomplished player who has the game to beat absolutely anybody, and at only 27 years of age, has plenty of time to go on and achieve this dream. Noppon Sankam is another highly rated player who has yet to claim a ranking title. Unfortunately, the past 12 months or so have not really yielded the kind of results we've become used to seeing from the Thai Cuman, but he has gotten close to silverware on multiple occasions before. Noppon has made it to 4 career ranking event semi-finals between 2018 and 2023, before then going one step further to reach a first ranking event final at the 2023 Scottish Open, where he lost out to Gary Wilson. Noppon has also made it to the Crucible on 3 occasions, a place where he has beaten both Shaun Murphy and Luca Bressel before. The standout for Noppon, and something that probably sets him apart from his talented compatriot Timchaya Anu, was that he is blessed with a pretty solid all-round game, And that was really the basis for the consistent form that he found when he was in or around the top 32. If Noppon can rediscover his form, then hopefully this might be a statistic that he will be able to put right at some point. But now let's also remember that snooker hasn't just been around for the past 10 years, and there have been other great players in the past to grace this game of ours who never won a ranking title. Take Kirk Stevens, the Canadian, for example, a man who regularly featured within the world's top 10 during the 1980s, and also made a 147 in the Masters in a semi-final match against Jimmy White, which is in the Hall of Fame as one of the best snooker matches of all time. Now, Kirk has won an invitational title before, but was never able to land a ranking event. This is despite reaching a ranking event final and 4 further semi-finals. 2 of those semi-finals also came at the Crucible, where he narrowly lost out to both Alex Higgins and Steve Davis. The final he lost to South African Silvino Francisco was also the only ranking title that Silvino ever won, so you can imagine how much weight that final had for both men. Unfortunately though for Kirk, who was regarded as one of snooker's most charismatic and flamboyant players ever, he was never able to get over the line to win a ranking title, and I suspect viewers from that generation would be screaming for his inclusion in this topic. Now, let's also have a look at Joe Swale, shall we? The Northern Irishman often found himself either in or around the top 16 during the 1990s and 2000s, and he is a man who has won 5 professional titles in his career. Well, 4, if we discount the qualifying tournament to get onto the professional tour. However, none of these titles that Joe had won were ranking events, and just like Kirk Stevens and Noppon Sankam, Joe has made it to a single ranking event final back at the 2009 Welsh Open, where he lost 9-5 to Ali Carter despite being 5-2 ahead at one stage. Joe has also made it to 9 semi-finals in ranking events, and again, just like Kirk Stevens, 2 of those finals were at the World Championship, which he made in consecutive years in 2000 and 2001. Joe was so often known for his rather unorthodox technique where the elbow on his cue arm was sort of bent towards his back rather than being in a straight line. But he is hardly the only man to not have a textbook cue action and still find success in the sport. Again though, Joe was never able to find that elusive ranking event win. But a man with statistics such as this, as well as being someone to make over 100 career centuries, he does perhaps also deserve consideration here. And then the 6th and final man on my list is a veteran who is still currently on the professional tour, and that is Mark Davis. Now, Mark is an interesting one because he spent most of his early career in the 1990s and 2000s as a bit of a journeyman who never really got within the world's top 32. But then he found a bit of a renaissance in the mid-2010s when he got himself into the top 16 for the first time, and then managed to qualify for back-to-back Masters appearances in both 2013 and 2014. Just like Joe Swale, Mark is a winner of multiple titles, but again, none of these have come at ranking events. I talked about the mid-2010s being the time when Mark really found his best form, and this did coincide with a time when he won back-to-back titles at the 6th Red World Championship. As is becoming a pattern in this video, Mark has also made it to just one career ranking event final, which was 7 years ago at the English Open, where he narrowly lost out to Stuart Bingham in the final, but that run did also include wins over Ronnie O'Sullivan and John Higgins. He also got to a semi-final on 5 occasions, all of which came between 2012 and 2018. With Mark Davis, you have a man with a career spanning over 3 decades now, who has 12 appearances at the Crucible and has made over 300 career centuries. This is all in addition to the stats already mentioned, so would Mark make it as your best player to never win a ranking title? And so those are just some men who I think you can make a strong case for when answering this question, but I know for a fact there are some players who I've completely failed to mention as well. So do let me know in the comments, what do you think? Would one of the 6 players I mentioned be your answer to who is the best player to never win a ranking title? Or is there someone else I have completely neglected to involve here? As always, let me know in the comments your thoughts, and I will catch you all in the next video.